Hello, everyone. I'm Keith Kirkpatrick, Research Director with the Futurum Group, and I'd like to welcome you back to Enterprising Insights. It's our weekly podcast that explores the latest developments in the enterprise software market and the technologies that underpin these platforms, applications, and tools. This week, I'm going to address a couple of contact center focused product announcements that have come out recently, namely Microsoft Dynamics 365 Contact Center and Cisco's WebEx AI powered self learning contact center. Then, of course, I will address my weekly rant or rave. So let's get right into it here. So there are a couple of announcements that are being made this week around contact centers. And when we're talking about contact centers, we're talking about contact center as a service. So essentially, it's cloud-based. And the idea here is that what these companies, what these vendors are trying to do is really enable some of the functionality from AI, basically enabling AI within these contact center things to make customer experiences more seamless, uh, less full of friction, and of course, hopefully helping out both the end customers as well as the agents who are serving them. So let's take a look at what Microsoft is doing. So Microsoft is announcing the Microsoft Dynamics 365 Contact Center. They're terming it a co-pilot first solution. The goal here is really to engage or help customers engage and deliver exceptional customer experiences across all of the service channels. So when we're talking about this Dynamics 365 Contact Center, uh, really what they're talking about is this comprehensive vision for delivering service. So it's going to really encompass not only the contact center functionality, but also pulling in things like CRM, generative AI, CDP, all of these different solutions, all within a common platform. And the goal here is there's really a few different things here that they're trying to do. One is make it easy to integrate all of the data from across the organization onto a single platform. That just makes things much easier for IT and also in terms of actual utilization of the services. You're not having to go out and grab data or processes from a bunch of different unrelated platforms. Uh, the other thing that they're really kind of leaning into, of course, is Copilot. And as everyone is very much aware, Microsoft has leaned in heavily to delivering Copilot across their experiences. So this is essentially what they're trying to do is make it easy for customers and agents to interact with data and processes within the workflow that they're going in, that they're using at the time to really bring in that generative AI functionality. So that could be anything from self-service routing to agent assist services, post-call wrap-ups, analytics, you name it. They're trying to incorporate AI, particularly generative AI, to make things work more smoothly. So a couple examples. So let's say I'm a customer and I have an inquiry and I interact with a self-service application saying I need help with something. Well, in many cases, if it's an easy request, the idea is to let the AI take care of that request automatically. But what they're also trying to do is intelligently assess what is this caller or this person coming in through an SMS text or an app really trying to do. Basically, they want to try to find out or use this technology to identify intent. And in some cases, it means, well, the best case is not to actually have someone get shifted over to a full bot service, but actually get routed to a human agent who has the right experience, knowledge, and tools to handle their requests. So what the goal here is obviously is to reduce that friction of going through an entire process with a bot only to be told, hold on, we're going to connect you with an agent. Their goal is to make sure that you're able to get to that agent right away because that will speed resolution, it reduces friction, and it makes the experience for the customer so much better. We all have those horror stories of going through this endless process only to wind up with an agent anyway. Some of the other things that Copilot can do within a contact center framework, uh, assisting agents. So serving up knowledge to agents as they're working on a case, because this system will be basically incorporating all of the, customer data, relevant customer data. When was the last time they called? What did they call about? What types of products have they purchased? What service agreements do they have? And then kind of, serving up that information to the agent so it's at their fingertips so they don't have to hunt for that information. Uh, Using generative AI to generate emails or communications. Essentially, if a an agent has to reach out to a customer, they can generate an email for them. Obviously, the agent still has the final word. It has to look, or they have to look over this content before it ever goes out. But it really is sort of a starter, so the hardest thing is to actually write from a blank page. This gives them the relevant information they need to actually initiate that communication. And then, of course, something like call wrap up. One of the most difficult things for a contact center agent, whether we're talking about someone who's dealing with someone on the phone or through a text or through an app or what have you, is when that interaction is over, they need to capture quite a bit of information. Uh, it's not what they do best. A lot of times these people haven't been trained on that. By using AI to actually listen in and capture all of the steps that we're taking during that interaction, number one, and also wrapping up all of the other notes about the interaction. Was the customer upset? Did they take these steps? What actually happened on that call? By using generative AI to capture all of that information, it saves a lot of time with that post call wrap up, and it also um, improves accuracy a lot of the time. Certainly people try their hardest, but sometimes it's difficult to remember exactly what went on throughout a call, particularly if that interaction was quite long in duration. And then, of course, the other thing that Microsoft is talking quite a bit about is scalability and reliability. That's critical in today's world, particularly for services that are targeting large enterprises, ones that may, have sort of a fluctuating demand in terms of number of agents that you're using or volume of inquiries. You really look at something like retail, where obviously they're going to see a real bump up in traffic and inquiries around the holidays, both in the pre-holiday season, throughout the holiday season, and then afterwards for dealing things with returns and that sort of thing. So that's one of the things that that Microsoft is really kind of trying to market in these services. And I think when we think about what they're doing here, Microsoft is doing is they're trying to basically extend uh, their market footprint. Obviously, they've had a strong sort of hold in the marketplace when we're thinking about Dynamics 365. In terms of productivity, certainly, they've tried to make inroads in terms of being sort of the ERP of record for small to medium-sized businesses. And what this does is gives them another application that they can then in turn go out to customers with and say, okay, we have all of these applications available for you. They're all on the same platform. They're all going to be working together very seamlessly. And of course, when you do that, the actual cost to implement should be lower. So that's one of the things that is really coming up quite a bit today is this whole idea of how can we maximize our investments, minimize our costs, and of course, the biggest thing is it's time to value. When you think about the whole implementation process of putting in a new system or even putting in a piecemeal system, you want to make sure that you're able to get up and running very, very quickly. And the reason for that is when you see things like generative AI come in, you don't want to have this long deployment cycle because by that point, the technology will have the technology cycles would have cycled through a couple of different times. So you're really behind in terms of certain functions. So it's important to be able to quickly get value, to implement and get value out of each investment that you make. Um, and the thing, I think Microsoft, like a lot of these companies, has realized that, and that is why they're leaning heavily into this idea, this platform play of making it a lot more simple to implement. Whether or not you use all of Microsoft's tools or you have to integrate with another solution, they're still trying to do what they can to make sure that that process is as seamless as possible. Now, I'd like to talk about another announcement that came out this week, and that is Cisco. They actually announced their AI powered contact center. Obviously, it's branded under WebEx, and they're talking a lot about their new AI assistant for contact center capabilities. And, like Microsoft, they have, sort of similar use cases for AI. So things like agent summaries, call summaries, suggested responses, call wrap ups. They actually also include things like coaching highlights. So if an agent has an interaction, there's something that could have been handled differently or better, they'll actually get coaching through the application. And another one is that's pretty interesting is sort of an automatic CSAT score, which is for those who are not familiar, that's a customer satisfaction score. That's pretty interesting because if you think about what organizations are trying to do is quickly identify when there's been a lapse in customer experience. If a customer is not satisfied after an interaction, they want to know and they want to know quickly. And of course, the most important thing is they want to try to identify the root cause of that. And that's where they can kind of look back through the interaction. What happened? Did it take too long to service? Was it an issue with the product? Was it an issue with the interaction that was going on? And being able to do that and identify that very quickly can be really powerful in terms of delivering a better customer experience. One other thing that's really interesting, and WebEx is doing this, is they actually have this burnout detection feature. So that's really interesting because when you think about the life of a contact center agent, it is not an easy job. They have incredible volumes to deal with in terms of interactions, whether we're talking about phone interactions or text or web app application communications. All really, it's very high volume. A lot of times they're asked to handle multiple interactions at once. And let's face it, a lot of times, particularly if we're talking support, you're not dealing with happy customers calling up to say how happy they are. Almost nobody does that. You're dealing with angry customers who are frustrated, who are automatically gearing up to having a negative experience just because of their past history of calling up agents and not getting what they need. So what they're trying to do with this is identify, what it is that, if there are certain things going on in interactions that are indicative that an agent's performance might be slipping or they might be slipping into a bad habit, whether it's sentiment or, sort of tone of voice, that sort of thing. They're able to identify that. And then you might, and I think the goal with all of these things is to just assess when an agent is having an issue so they can be pulled out of a heavy rotation for difficult calls or whatnot. The idea really is to make sure that agents are taken care of because it is a very stressful job. And the, being a contact center agent isn't on the top of anybody's uh, list, generally speaking, in terms of jobs that people are clamoring to do uh, right now. So they are having a labor shortage. So anything that companies can do to retain good agents and also keep good agents from becoming bad agents is certainly welcome in the industry. One of the things that I was, that I found pretty interesting as well is that uh, Cisco actually released a few numbers here. I believe this was from their early beta users. They actually surveyed them to identify what, how well everything was working. And a few of the stats here, I think they said that uh, in terms of AI customer feedback in the contact center, they were able to generate, using AI, they were able to generate uh, a 3x faster response rate to customers. That's really important. Again, we live in an instant gratification world where you want an answer right away. You can't wait. Customers won't wait, whether it's fair or not. Speed is everything. So that's really interesting to see how AI can improve response time. We also the survey also found that they were response for 80% of the responses were or of agents actually will reply more accurately with suggested responses. So that's really important when you think of an agent who is asked a question on the phone or through text. If they're not able to look up the correct information, a lot of times they may just respond with something that might not be correct. If AI is able to suggest a response that is correct, that is grounded in company data, and when I'm talking about grounding, I'm talking about the AI model will only use the data that has been specified as being this body of knowledge that they, are that it is allowed to grab from. So that's a really important thing, particularly when we're looking at, uh, certain certain support things where if we're talking about a customer who asks a question about an insurance policy or something where there are real consequences to giving a wrong answer. So that's a really interesting stat. Um, Another really interesting stat is that of these early customers, they also said that agents, 93% of the agents can get up to speed with customer history and context of the call faster with virtual agent and drop call summaries. What does that mean? Well, that means that, you know, the there's just much more information provided in context to these agents, about the interaction with the customers, with their history, which is really great to see. So, for example, if if I call up a customer service agent and I don't get through or whatever, and the call is dropped because either I drop it or something happened technically, well, in the past, an agent wouldn't know that. They wouldn't know that I tried to call 3 times and I was having a problem getting through, or I had too long of a delay, or whatever the issue might have been. Now, these agents are actually provided with that information automatically, so they can open the call with, "Hello, Mr. Kirkpatrick. I would just want to first say I'm so sorry you've been having difficulty getting through to us. Please tell me what your problem is." Right there, you've automatically knocked down one of the big barriers to a positive customer experience, and that is demonstrating empathy for that customer situation. You automatically acknowledge, "Hey, I know you've been having issues getting in touch with us. How can I help?" So that's a real game changer when you think about the typical nature of customer experience and customer support, where you don't know who you're going to get, and they don't know you, and it seems like they don't care about you. And then I think the last one is really important here. They said that 80% of agents, they have clear, noise-free and distraction-free conversations with this technology that WebEx has included. It's called noise removal and voice optimization. What is this doing? Well, it's essentially removing the static, the background noise, everything that gets in the way of being able to clearly understand what the speaker on the other end of the line is saying. Uh, Again, it's amazing how simple that concept is, that if you have a clear line, communication is easier. So it's absolutely imperative today, when we do have voice conversations, that people can understand each other. I think, the other thing that comes up, and you know, um, sometimes contact center agents, they may not be speaking in their primary language, and sometimes when you have accents involved, it makes it more difficult for people to understand each other. If you add in background noise, then it can become really, really difficult. When you remove it, it just clears the path, to better understanding and communication to people, between people. So I think that's a really interesting and powerful stat that came out of this sort of early test run with the with the service. So again, I'm going to be writing some more about both of these services over the coming week. But I just wanted to kind of highlight a couple of things there, because I do think that we're seeing AI now become a, a real catalyst for really improving customer interactions. And really, the contact center is the first stop on this journey with interactions anymore. It's rare that you have face-to-face interactions. I don't know anybody who writes a letter to companies anymore. I assume that they complain, they tweet about it now. So this is a really, really good step for the industry, for any company that utilizes a contact center. So with that, I want to move to my rant or rave segment. This is where I pick something in the market and I either champion it or I criticize it. And today I have trying to be topical, I do have a contact center rant. This one is related to, uh, well, I'll give you the situation. So I took my car into the dealership for service a couple of weeks ago. I had actually had a very good interaction there. They took care of what needed to be taken care of. They said to me, "We have 2 open recalls. Would you like us to take care of it?" "Yes, thank you very much. I would love you to." Acknowledged. Repairs were done. All good. Then that was about 2 or 3 weeks ago. Then about a day or two ago, I started getting multiple phone calls to my home phone, to my cell phone. I got a text, actually a couple of texts and a couple of emails, all asking me or letting me know that I had an open recall on my car. And I thought to myself, I don't know if that's true because I was just at the service center and just thought that was strange. So then I finally picked up on one of the calls because I was tired of it interrupting for me. And I talked with the young lady who called and said, "Oh, you have a service. I'm sorry, you have an outstanding recall." And I said, "Well, can you check that? Because I was just in." So she checked. It took a little while. And then she acknowledged and said, "Oh, you're right, sir. I'm sorry. Thank you very much. Goodbye." So, a couple of things here that I'm going to rant a little bit about. Number one, they should know this information. Should all be in their CRM or CDP or whatever they happen to be using to contact me. The fact is, it was acknowledged that they took care of those, previously open, you know, uh, recalls. It shouldn't have even been a phone call. Um, this is what these systems are for, is to keep track of all of that. So you're not wasting the time and effort and annoying customers with basically irrelevant calls. Second thing would be when this young lady, did call me and I explained that no, I already had the recall taken care of. There was a missed opportunity there. Not saying I want to be sold every time I hop on the phone, but I do feel like they could have said, "Okay, I'm sorry, sir, but did you know we're running a special on this?" Or you know, did you ever think about this? There were a number of different upsell opportunities, and of course, the other thing that was missing was the just the, well, would you like to schedule your next service appointment? Very, very basic, not hard to do. It's rare that you get people on the phone these days. So again, I think we're looking here at two things: training issue and a data issue. And those are two things that AI probably isn't going to be the solution. I think it comes down to really making sure that people are trained and there are the right processes within the systems to handle those things. And really, this can make all the difference in the world in terms of customer satisfaction, making sure that customers feel like you know that in exchange for all the data that we give all of these companies, that they're actually listening and being active and being present and understanding who we are and how we've interacted with the companies in the past. So anyway, that is my my rant for the week. Not terrible, but I do think it's an interesting aspect in the market that we do have the technology to handle these things, and yet in many cases it's still not being done. Well, with that, that's all the time I have today. So I want to thank everyone for joining me here on Enterprising Insights. I'll be back again in about a week with another episode focused on the happenings within the enterprise application market. So thanks everyone for tuning in, and be sure to subscribe, rate, and review this podcast on your preferred platform. Thanks, and see you next time.